Hello everyone. In this lecture we will discuss about design for sustainability with inspiration from nature. So let's see what nature has to offer to us in terms of design inspirations. So there is one actually saying from Stephen Vogel. He says an astronomer or a microscopist might introduce us to an otherwise unseen world. The account here, by contrast, aims to reveal an otherwise unnoticed world. Well, there is a lot many things. There are innumerable, unaccountable instances where we can learn from the nature. There are several examples in our life, like how humans have actually drawn inspiration from like a nature, and whether it is direct or indirect in several other ways, but there are always a bearing in our designs, which has some inspiration from the nature. Well, nature has its own ways of working. Nature has its own ways of actually conducting the functions of the nature, whether it is living beings of all types, whether it is flora and fauna, whether it is big animals, smaller animals, insects, even the human body parts also. If you see how the human body works, how the mechanism works, how the form works, what are the actually kind of learnings we can take from. So there are innumerable instances from which we can learn. So we will see how this can actually work out. You see the slide, it talks about the levels of biomimicry. Well, what is biomimicry? Bio comes from the like a nature. Mimicry means like a mimicking it or replicating it. Okay, so there are this mimicking is possible at different levels. First and foremost comes drawing the natural form. For example, if a fish is there and I'm trying to draw and trying to evolve the actual form of that fish into like a certain like a form which resembles that frame or which functions like frame. So the moment it when we talk about like the functionality a part of it, it goes to the natural processes. Okay, so the process is the like a second level of bringing biomimicry in our like designs. And the third and topmost level is the drawing from or mimicking the natural ecosystem. Like ecosystem means the entire like a mechanism, form, functionality in several ways, in like a much detail than the previous two. So we see this mimicking is at three levels. One is at the surface level, the second is at a little deeper, and the third one like completely going like replicating or completely like mimicking it into with a much deeper understanding and mechanism. So like a form, process, and ecosystem. Okay, on the applications in relation to like a design aspect categories, well, there are some variations we can see. There are like a multiple approaches from like a arts and aesthetic side towards like a engineering side. So the art side goes for the form applications, for example, uses in the like architecture and art. Okay, then comes like a approach 2 for like a mimicking like a mechanics, the dynamics, and the structural system of it. Okay, so it finds actually usability in general engineering, locomotion, other like a structural engineering, even like a architectural functioning, etc. And then the third level, which is much deeper understanding at engineering level, it goes for like a material explorations from the, like a material science examples. For example, the surfaces which are dust free, or they are dust repellent, for example, mimicking actually the surface of the like a lotus leaves. Okay, so that comes under like a material exploration. And if we want to evolve maybe a dynamic actually form for like a aerodynamics or fluid dynamics or something, so well, that comes under like a form studies, and yeah, majorly into the form studies. So these are actually some variations like how this mimicking can be actually carried out. So we saw, and in the coming slides we will see some examples. So you see this slide, this one talks about creation of maximum strength with minimal input material. Well, this is one of the best examples of bones. Okay, our skeleton system. So if we take each of these pieces of like bones, okay, depending upon the application and the usability of that organ from wherever we are referring to. Okay, that actually piece of bone is an excellent actually piece of engineering, and there are several ways. You can see the example given over here. Like nature employs a relatively small amount of material in its assemblies as compared to human constructions. However, through unique configuration of these simple materials, nature is able to create structure that outperform many man-made structures. For example, bones in natural organisms shows variation in their cross section all over their length to deposit the material where it is needed most. In addition, cross-linking of the fibers in bone contribute to the increase in strength without a corresponding increase in weight of the material. So you see, like wherever the maximum strength is required, the concentration of the material, the volume of the material will be there like a more, and wherever it is not needed that much, there will be like a reduction of the material, from that portion, that segment. And for example, like our femur bone is one of the most longest actually bone. The longest actually bone in like a human body is the femur. Okay, so the femur, if you see the joints of it, from where it gets joined with the knee, or it goes into the like a pelvic bone area. So that actually portion is shown over here with this image. Okay, so that is always like a broader with the with the mechanism, so that it gets inserted into the pelvic bone area efficiently, while allowing the required movement in the like a body parts. So this is one of the best examples of like how material optimization is used in the like a natural systems. So when we see like our structural system, for example beams and columns, okay, they carry the almost same cross section from in their entire length and width. Well, if we study the structural actually, and if we do the structural analysis of that, okay, there may be some portions where even the lesser amount of material would do, but we generally do not actually do that. So as a result, actually it may be like a possible that we are wasting a lot of material, which is unsustainable. So further, if you see like how structures of any like a material can be utilized as like a aesthetical appeal also. So you can see some images over here. So these are the some actually like a furniture pictures of the furniture, how this entire actually furniture is made up out of this like this structure, and how is it likely that this is going to provide a cushioning effect while sitting on it. And in this one, if you see these small corrugations, okay, honeycomb sort of like a corrugations, they are very thinner in their own like thicknesses, but they are going to with a group of like these high concentration of these actually members, they are going to provide very like a comfortable actually seating actually for the person who is going to sit on here. Okay, and similarly in this actually chair, if you see in this chair, this these actually honeycomb structures, they are used for actually strengthening the side of this wall of this actually chair. And in here, if you see in this like a wall in a shop, so this actually structure is used for creating like sunken spaces, utilizing and creating a focus on the like a product which are being displayed over here, creating like an interesting lighting actually atmosphere lighting like a experience inside these actually coves. So there are several actually interpretations of like utilizing a form of any like a example from the nature, in this case like a honeycomb, like a this structural system, and how its form can be used in like a multiple ways. So we'll see the next slide. So here if you see like how this can the same structure can be used for actually creating breathing windows. So here if you see like this radiator is actually designed under using this honeycomb structure to create this breathing window, which in turn actually cools the liquid, the of any like engine. And similarly here this structure is also used, this can be used as a mat also, though these films are very thin, but as a overall as a composite structure, this could be like a very strong supporting even a a person's like a weight. And similarly here these this is casted in like a ceramic or clay, and now this has taken like this kind of a form of like a vessels, these hollow vessels, creating actually a structure out of it. And similarly here like this also structure is it looks like, it appears like this is made up in like a wireframe structure utilizing joining with some like a membrane. Okay, so the all of these like geometries if we see have actually has the potential of translating into very interesting actually usable forms for our uses. Okay, so how this biomimicry, this approach actually works. So there are actually three levels to it given by the biomimicry guild. We can go seeing like all of these one by one. So the first actually bubble talks about like a scoping. Okay, so this actually works surrounding actually the context in which the study on actually the study is actually established, and then it talks about vision, like how do we visualize it to take like a shape. Like, so the questions of like when, where and what actually arise in this domain. And under this category actually the queries of like a changes mindset, broadens like a solution space, and increases like likelihood needs will be met, deepens understanding with the context. So actually these sort of like queries are answered in this actually bubble over here. So like it works as a design for like a nature as mentor. So this is the actually place from where we take like our inspiration, from here we actually take up our like a context actually study, and then we take it ahead. Okay, and the next level we go to the like a creating actually stage. So this creating stage works for like a discovering, an abstraction, like the moment we start actually deriving something out of the given context and in the given actually the example, the case example. So the queries like more ideas, novel ideas, likely life friendly ideas, protested and proven ideas, beautiful ideas, like for example like biophilia, elegant ideas. So these actually start coming into like a shape, they start taking actually abstraction like a form, and then lastly we have this evaluating phase where we go for like a testing and auditing and evaluations, etc. So it pretests for the like a success, identifies missed limits and opportunities, ask what wouldn't nature do. And yeah, so these kind of like queries are actually take place over here, and at the confluence of these three we get our actually the solution. So this is where actually how this biomimicry actually approach actually takes lead, and leads us for like any like a solution from the nature. Well, biomimicry and nature-based designs are always like a very interesting, and they give actually insights into like how the nature functions, and we try with our like aesthetical and engineering methods to mimic those into like a real life example. So we will see like some examples from the like a real life. You see this picture over here. So this is like a Eastgate Center building design inspired by African termite mounds. Okay, so this was published in this paper. So you see over here, you may have seen these like a termite mounds in the like a countrysides and forest areas. They grow as tall as maybe a house is like a structure, maybe one story actually high structure. And these are all created out of only like a mud and the earth material. These ants actually they weave this structure like a bit by bit on their own. They take like some time, with the group effort actually they build this. And it's not just a piece of like a earth or a mound. It is actually a breathing completely, like there is a, you can call it as a city structure. And there are like there may be the lakhs of the termites, which may be inhabiting inside actually this chamber, in the inside this actually structure. And it is a completely like a works with the like aerodynamics. There will be like a air movement inside. There will be like a chambers to control the heat, control the like a heat from the like a sun. There will be actually chambers for like a protection of the like a queen termite and their newborn like a babies or their larvae. And there may be some chambers to store like a food. So it works as a like a whole self-sufficient actually living unit, where these termites in huge number actually reside. So taking cue from this actually example, the architect and the designer has actually designed this building, which takes this inspiration of like this cooling on its own. So the actually allowing the movement of air from the like a surface, and then going in the core, and then the stale air or the warm air will rise to the like a ceiling and the roofing area, and from there it will escape. So by creating a kind of a air movement inside the building for like a proper ventilation. So this building works as a like a properly like a self ventilated actually system, where this warm air actually goes up through this the provision in the like a ceiling to rise, and it gets released from here, allowing the actually fresh air to move again from the like a sides of the building. And by thus like it creates this inducing this like a air movement inside this premises. And this is how this is actually cross section, where it is shown like how the temperature rises from the surface till the like a core areas of the space, and how these greeneries and other stuff are also used inside, to actually keep the air like a saturated, keep the air like a healthy, fresh, you know and comfortable for the like inhabitants inside. So this is one of the like a typical examples where the form is used in a much direct way. We can say like this is used while adopting the like a form only, but this is a very like a high and bigger in like a scale. So compared to like this structure, this may be like a 10 times or even more. So this is, but overall actually principle remains the same. In the next, if we see like in a more subtle way, like how like we see through the glasses, and how actually birds and other like these insects, they cannot actually perceive some of the materials. Well, glass is one of the materials which these animals and other life forms actually cannot completely like understand. You may have actually witnessed some instances where the birds might end up actually hitting the glass panes and the glass windows and the glass openings, in our like buildings, because they do not actually they are unable to differentiate between like an open space and a space which is like a covered with the glass piece, clear glass piece, and they end up actually hitting it, and in turn like millions of actually birds die every year out of just this actually phenomena. So it's one of the actually bad impacts and the hazards of having like a clear actually glass surfaces on the like a building surfaces, because even like a even with like a no intention of, we end up actually killing they have so much of like so many number of like birds every year unintentionally. So how this can be actually taken care of? So there is this solution you can see over here on this slide. This is the product actually. The commercial brand name is Ornilux glass. So this has actually these invisible to like a human eyes, these structures and these reinforcements, these lines inside the body of this glass. So we may not be like we'll be able to see these lines through these like a glass, but the birds, they may be able to see it. So they will understand, okay, okay, there is something actually, some obstruction in their path, and they may not actually come this way, resulting into like saving of their lives. So this is one of the approaches from where we can re-engineer the our like products and our solutions from everyday life, and we can help actually nature sustaining in like a multiple ways. So this is one of the examples I thought of putting up over here, like how the social concerns also can play a role into design, and how we can take actually inspiration from nature itself and go back and redesign the solutions. Further, like coming back again to the like a biomimicry part here, like a lotus flower, we are all aware of lotus flower sits in the like a middle of the water and mud, yet it doesn't actually catches the mud part or the water part. So it is so like a a non-sticky like a surface, non-sticky like a the coating it has, that allows the even a single drop of water to just simply like roll over and move away. So how like we can actually take inspiration from like a such a like a system, and evolve and design products which can be suitable in like a such scenarios, where maybe a human may be working in like a, for example, like the wet areas, or maybe even in the like a for the like a road construction work, or even like a the people who are like working in the agricultural field. So how they can save themselves, how their clothing can be designed to minimize actually the effects of the like a natural elements. So this is one, if we start decoding it, so this is the diagram I would like to put up, like how a surface, any like a surface, any solid surface, attracts the water molecule, attract the water actually droplets. So this is the cross section over here on like a solid surface. You can see a drop of liquid is sitting like a properly, and how this actually the changes in the structure of this surface, with these undulations, the surface area of contact is like removed significantly by this like the by this actually third illustration over here, and this drop of water is just simply sitting without getting attached with the like a wider actually surface area, but with the very minimum actually surface area. And the moment this surface will be inclined, or maybe some kind of like motion will come, this water is going to just simply roll over. So this is actually kind of a inspiration taken from these lotus pond, this lotus actually plant, these lotus flower and it's like leaves, and the surfaces are actually designed these days to which can actually attract little dust, or almost like a, they don't actually the dust may not be actually able to attach with the surface. In turn, if you just wipe it off, if you just like throw some water, the dust is going to go away simply without causing any stain or any like damages to the surface. So such actually inspirations are coming from nature, and there could be like a many more we will see. So how this design spiral works, so there is another actually illustration from like this biomimicry guild we will see. So it starts from like a translation. So that is the level one, when we start actually conceptualizing and visualizing the translation to biology by identifying certain functions. For example, in the previous slide we saw like how we can take cues from the like a lotus actually flower, lotus leaves, and how we can create like a bio like a hydrophobic surfaces. So identifying the function, so the creating a hydrophobic actually surface could be our like a, for example, like a one case function in this case. Then we can go for asking how does nature do that function. So we can go for the inquiry, like how this is being done by that like a plant, that lotus plant. Reframing the question, then again we can reframe our questions based on our like requirements and suitability. And then we can go for like defining habitat conditions that reflect design parameters. Then we can go for again like a further adaptations and other like ways of bringing or mimicking it our in our own application. And then further we can go for translating life's principle into design parameters. So again we can set like the design guidelines and the requirements and parameters, etc. Further we can go to the next stage, that is discovery. So in the discovery, this suggests to discover natural models. Then on the final point, it suggests to go outside, consider both literal and metaphorical models, comb the literature, brainstormed with the biologists, create a taxonomy of life's strategies. So discovery means actually studying, discovery means actually investigation, like how things are actually taking place in the nature, and for that actually we can go to several like a stakeholders, like a biologist are the ones expert actually scientists who have or who have the actually knowledge and idea of how the animals and how these actually insects and plants work in the nature. So with the consultation with the like a books, literature and other like these biologists, we can go for like a finding like a state of the art like a knowledge, like how this phenomena is happening on its own in the nature. For the next level, this is like a emulating. So emulate nature's strategies. So brainstorm multiple solutions, refer back to the discover phase and consider chimera designs, consult with biological experts, go back to your model and explore more strategies. So from here actually this the human ingenuity and this visualization and conceptualization begins, like how we can best transform this actually naturally occurring phenomena or the form or the ecosystem into like a man-made like a application based work. And then finally like evaluating it, evaluate your design against life's principles. Can your design adapt and evolve? Does your design create conditions conducive to life? how can you improve your design. So these are actually evaluations and assessments which we do like a post design, and there may be some feedback on which we can work again. We can go for this, completing this cycle for the second time, and we can improvise and improve our product, and we can find a most actually suitable solution for any like a given requirement. So this is how actually a design spiral works, for like a taking inspiration from the nature. Further to this, one example, you may have seen visuals of this actually building. So how they have actually taken example of like a such structure from the like a nature. So this is actually concept, or this is the inspiration from the nature, and what they have drawn as their aims is to optimize on the like energy efficiency, insulating the this entire like a structure. Okay, and then isolation of indoor and outdoor environmental, allowing the like a natural light. So with the combination of like this kind of like a surface, as a outcome, they were able to minimize actually energy reduction by up to 30%, capturing solar energy, reduction of artificial lighting by 55%. So as a resultant, we can see like how much of like a significant difference, adopting a natural actually form can do compared to any like a traditional like a man-made form. So it's clearly like evident that there is a potential in following actually nature in our designs. In this table, in this actually slide, you can see some actually matrix is given from where we can see the how the inspiration was taken and how it was translated into a final product, into a final actually design. So there are 4 examples given over here. So we can see these examples are mentioned over here on the top, in the on the left side. For the first example is termite nest, second like a butterfly, third like a cuttlefish, and the fourth one like a hippopotamus skin. So these are the pictures, and the features what are like the features which are actually taken from the inspiration are like a optimum like a air temperature. So maintaining like the optimum like a air temperature, even if it is like hotter or cooler, outside. And the inside these actually structure, the ambient temperature remains more or less like under like a normal conditions required for the termites, for the living of the termite. So this natural ventilation system, how efficiently it works, is the actually the main feature which we are talking about over here. In the second actually case example, we are talking about reflecting the sunlight. So like butterflies are one of the most beautiful like creatures in the like ecosystem, and they are existing in like an innumerable actually varieties of color and scattering and the appearance of it, and they are one of the most actually appealing creatures. So how do they work? So we have actually seen like how the reflection of the sunlight takes place through the like a microfibrous structure on their like wings. So how that can be actually transformed into like a certain like a product or certain like a utility. So we will see over here in the third one like the property of a camouflage. So this cuttlefish actually has this excellent property of getting into camouflage, so communication with the color like a changes. So it keeps on changing its color, with the variation of the change in the color and appearance of the it's like a background wherever it is like placed, in order to avoid like the predators. So this is one of the amazing like properties of this like cuttlefish, and there are several other like a chameleon is there, and there are several other creatures who actually do this actually camouflage property. So how this can be used for building surfaces also. So we will see over here, and the fourth and the last one, like how the hippopotamus skin actually absorbs UV light, and so we will see like how this is transformed over here. So example, like architect example of the biomimicry. So the building constructed using ventilation with the chimney system. So the one example we saw in the like previous slides, okay, where this is stack effect is used for like creating a better and optimized actually self-ventilating system. So how the uses of this actually functionality is taken into like architecture. So the blight street structure has a natural ventilation system which represents a kinetic architecture example. So this particular actually building from like this street, this place, adopts this mechanism of this termite nets, nest. And on the sustainability impact, if you see of this mechanism, adopting this mechanism results into like providing like energy conservation, providing like a fresh air in the like a core of this building, and it helps protecting maintaining the heat level also inside the building premises. So we can see like how a direct a philosophy is in implementation into like this design has resulted into like a significant actually improvement compared to a normal like a regular building design. On the second example, this butterflies are this sunlight reflection capabilities. So the wings of white butterflies have shaped the design of photovoltaic like panels. So how these panels can be redesigned for the orientation to face towards the sun or maybe away from the sun, at what angles they should reflect the light and all. So this project, so the Peter Koch, the project manager, he's talking about this project. They say that the shutters open and close like butterfly wings in response to heat and light levels inside the building. So they are these actually structures are providing the amount of like a controlled sunlight within this premise, by these retracting actually panels, which are designed on top of this building. So it takes advantage of the daylight, and it provides energy conservation, resulting into like a efficiency of energy used in this particular building. Third example of this cuttlefish, this it can be led on like a facades without without energy. The Galeria centricity has a single actually reflective surface during the day, and the nights radiate different light waves. So you can see in this picture over here. So this actually this functionality doesn't uses external energy as it is being said over here, but the structure, the intrinsic structure of this member only, this surface membrane only, it behaves like in such a way that it ends up actually saving a lot of energy during the like a daytime. So the passive energy is obtained from like a sunlight absorption with the color changes. So this is how actually they harness the sun's like a heat, and they actually minimize the heating load of the building also. Lastly, like the skin of the hippopotamus. So UV absorbing material has been developed for like a building in Italy. The Brisbane domestic terminal car park absorb energy like water bath skin. It provides energy conservation, natural protection from like a UV lights. Well, this is one of the amazing actually and more complex actually phenomena. Okay, so a very minute actually material analysis based exploration is needed to develop like this product, and I'm sure like these engineers, they have like succeeded in creating a building surface which can actually save from the like a harmful like a UV radiations. So well, this material can find utility in different other like places also. Okay, so further to this, like when we see like how these intricacies of this design in sync with the nature are actually placed in these two bubbles of sustainability and bio-inspired designs. So you can see over here like we have biomanufacturing, biomaterials, biorobotics, bio replication, biomimetics, and biomimicry over here, which is common between these two actually bubbles of sustainability and bio-inspired design. In the sustainability, on like a pure sustainability way, we have like this bio design or eco design, we have like a LCA, we have like a circular economy when we talk about closing the loop, and we have this bioeconomy away from here. And then we have some more examples on the sides, biotechnology being an extremely like engineering based approach, which cannot be called as a like a nature inspired design, though it actually reworks the technology into like a from like a biology perspective and provides like solution. So we see like in this actually two overlaps. This biomimicry is a subset which is falling in the like a common area. So this is why this biomimicry is like a favorite of like architects and designers also, engineers also, and why it is a favorite of like other like a material sciences also, who are developing the hardcore material exploration. They are doing like research much deeper into detail. We saw at the third level like designing for the like ecosystem through the help of like a biomimicry. So how this biomimicry actually approach should work? So we have this example, two examples, top down and bottom up. So in the top down, it goes starts from like a design problem, it goes on till the like a design solution by passing through like a search for biological analogies, identification appropriate principles, abstraction, detachment from biological model, testing, analysis, and feedback. The one typical cycle we saw in the like a previous slide. And these second, actually this approach works like a bottom up. So the first one goes for the like a biological research, understanding the any like a natural phenomena and a natural like a occurring, and then going for like a deriving like the biomimetics and biomechanics, the functional morphology and anatomy, and then going for understanding the principle, then going for abstraction, detailing out the technical implementation and finding then application. So here this actually research, this actually starts from the like a research, this approach starts from the research and then finding the solution. And here in this one, we first look for the problem and then we come up with the solution. So these are actually different like equally good approaches. It depends on the like the subject area, and depends on our like the interest of the in the research, etc. Finally, I would like to talk about here of this framework of the for the application of biomimicry at these three like levels, which we saw in the previous slides, and what could be the examples in each one of them on the form, material, construction, process, and functionality parts. So this is a very important actually slide over here. So the level of biomimicry you see at the organism level, mimicry of a specific organism. And then the second one talks about like a behavioral level, mimicry of like a how an organism behaves or relates to its larger context. And the third one, like at the ecosystem level, mimicry of an entire ecosystem. So for the organism level on the farm, so for example, if a building looks like a termite, like a nest, okay, completely, so that would be like a biomimicry actually approach of like the deriving form through this like a organism. Okay, second, on the material part, the building is made from the same material as a termite, like using the normal earth material, the mud, material that mimics termite exoskeleton skin, for example. Okay, so for example, if you are taking the termite only, so the material which limits which actually mimics the termites like a exoskeleton, for example, the skin and the bone parts, etc. In the construction, the building is made in the same way as a termite. It goes through various growth cycles, for example. Process, the building works in the same way as an individual termite. It produces like a hydrogen efficiency through metagenomics, for example. And then the fifth and the last one, function. The building functions like a termite in a larger context. It recycles cellulose waste and creates soil, for example. So they are the actually different levels of this exploration we see on these actually five examples of form, material, construction, process, and function. So the how this applications can actually take place, can actually occur with the variation in these like five examples. Similarly at the behavior level, when we go, so that if a building looks like it was made by a termite replica of a termite mound, for example, in the material part, the building is made from the same material that a termite builds with, using the digested fine soil as the primary material, for example. Construction, the building is made in the same way that a termite would build in, piling earth in certain places at certain time, for example. So we see it is very clear from these examples, like it is possible to actually mimic, at several levels, at the several actually approaches, of like the functionality and the the mechanism or the form, whatever we want. So it is possible to dissect our like a requirement, dissect our like a application strategy, and the design strategy, and even the inspiration strategy, how we should how we can actually proceed with this. So one example taken over here from this section of like a hydrological center for University of Namibia. So in this section you can see there is this actually surface, fog catching sail, and from this side actually there is a movement of fog, and this actually structure helps in the condensation of this foam, in turn actually collecting water out of it, this phenomena. So yeah, so this is actually cross section shown like how this kind of actually utilitarian strategies also can be actually devised and designed on site to deal with the certain conditions which are happening from the like a nature. Another very interesting example over here, if you don't read this text, simply I would like to put up this plastic material. What you are seeing in this chair is made up of a carbon material, carbon element, drawn from the air, the bare air, this naked air. So it is not actually fabricated out of like these plastic pellets, or these carbon actually pellets, but this carbon is actually drawn from the nature. So add done by these trees. This is not something unusual or first time this phenomena like we are talking about here, but but actually this is a if you read this text, it takes the plastic in this chair is made out of thin air without a drop of oil, like the material of the trees. The carbon comprising this chair's plastic polymers are sourced 100% from the atmosphere. Acquiring this ability, long practice by plants, is a manufacturing game changer. Well, obviously this is going to change the entire actually mechanism of like producing plastic related stuff, like how we actually source these plastics, and how in turn plastics are turning into a hazardous actually waste for our ecosystem. So this is one of the actually ways from where material scientists are actually playing this biomimicry game, and they are actually creating interesting solutions. In the next one, you may have seen this interesting actually form of this car, this vehicle. So this is inspired by the box bix. So you see box fish, which is on the right side. The bionic car developed by Mercedes-Benz gets 84 miles per gallon without a hybrid engine. The roomy interior of this tropical reef fish and its surprisingly streamlined body attracted the attention of automotive engineers. Additional weight saving in the car's frame were achieved using computer-aided design software inspired by bone growth. The lightweight frame results in the car one-third of the weight of like a comparable conventionally designed vehicle, while being just as like a same crash safe as the previous car, as any like a normal car. So you see the kind of like efficiency this form derivation has given, which is taken from this fish, this box fish, for like a vehicle. The material is actually reduced by like in a larger extent. I think it's really hard to imagine like this much of material can be saved from like a piece of like automobile, because automobile like a pieces of automobile like cars and all, they are one of the most optimized actually engineering solutions and machines created by like engineers. So yeah, this is one of the actually interesting actually feats with this design actually designers have actually achieved. In this example, you see this watch's electronic screen requires no battery power to view clearly, unlike the cell phone. The watch's brightness is generated solely by ambient sunlight, like the morpho butterfly that inspired the screen technology. The screen relies on the spacing of microscopic optical elements to split sunshine into specific wavelengths and reflect these back to our eyes. So we have seen like earlier the feathers of these the wings of these butterflies, they reflect sunlight. So how this actually function can be utilized in like our watches, to create actually the impression of the time whatever is going on without using electricity, but without using any like a battery. So this is one of the beautiful actually examples of like how this kind of actually natural like a phenomena can be utilized for creating like a such a deeper ecosystems. Finally, we have one more example over here. We may have, you all have seen like a wet dog or a wet actually cat. How do they actually flip their heads, in order to get rid of the water actually from their like a body. So they shake their heads in like a certain actually a certain rate in certain direction. So this was actually found through this study, from mice to bears, like all that shake dry at optimized actually speed, and that speed was actually utilized for creating actually these spinning of the actually dryers of cloths, these machines, to optimize on the efficiency of these machines, of optimize on the energy actually. So this is actually direct interpretation and a translation of like how these animals actually shake and get rid of the water molecules. Okay, so yeah, so how these actually mechanisms work. So in this slide, if you see, this is gecko, we are all aware of, you may have seen a gecko. I have seen several geckos while I was staying in like Northeast India. Northeast India is one of the most biodiverse hotspots of the world. And I saw some of these actually lurking around on the glasses of the windows, because the most of the area is still like a forest. So whenever we switch on the lights in our houses, so these lights attract a lot of like moths and other flies, towards this light. So they end up like a and roaming around our like a window panes in the night time, because most of the actually swath is all just forest, dark, actually pitch black, dark forest in front. So behind those actually moths and wasps, these geckos come to eat them. So I have seen actually a number of these geckos. So they have actually these geckos use the enormous actually surface area of their nanoscopically textured feet to fuse temporarily with the atoms of the surface they are actually walking on. So what do they do? We will see in the next slide how they create actually a vacuum pad on the surface, and with the help of that mechanism they end up sticking there with a much actually strength. So this is one of the actually best actually solutions, best actually adhesion, without using the adhesives, which was found in the nature occurring on its own. So this actually technique was actually taken for adoption and transformation in the like a human like a need based like application. So you see this picture over here. This person is comfortably climbing on this glass surface. So these glass surfaces, well, most of our buildings in the modern times are being constructed out of these like a glass surface material, and it is very difficult for anyone to clean these glass surfaces from the outside, because in most of the cases either they are completely like a sealed, or in some of the cases even if they are openable, it is very difficult to go outside and stand on them, because there is no other like a structural like a member to support the weight. So this kind of mechanism has come to the rescue in this solution you can see over here. So this is how these microfibers on the feet pads of these geckos look like. So see the scale over here is very like a teeny tiny, we cannot even see from our like a naked eyes. And how such arrangement, if it is like a replicated or used through this biomimicry, so how much of weight it can sustain. So see there is a significant actually increase from like this capacity from this arrangement to this arrangement. Okay, so how these microfibers engage the adhesion from like a one component to the other. So this is actually learning from this nature based actually design exercise. You see this the close up of the feet of a gecko over here. So they have usually like a 5 toes. Okay, and these toes, you see these rib kind of like a structures. So while sticking they create a vacuum over here within actually these ribs, and in turn they actually uh, end up actually comfortably sitting on any like a glass surface, any like a finished shiny surface also. They do not find it difficult to stand on any like a shiny surfaces also. They always like succeed in standing on them. So from what is this actually biomimicry we are talking about here is the engineering designs taken from the examples from the like a wild. So there are several examples like a gecko being the one. From the ants also, like how ants actually work in like a team, how ants actually weave their ant hills also, how do they actually work, how do they actually produce labor. So there are several examples like how do they actually carry weight, and so compared to their own body weight they actually carry multiple actually times of their own body weight, which is very actually powerful if we see considering these tiny actually structure of these body structure of these like ants. Several more examples like this is a canopy walkway for like a wildlife crossing. So how like in the nature without disturbing we can go. So there are several examples actually taken. If you see over here this represents the fashion of like a branching. So the how branching can give us like a optimize a structural system. So here you see this chair is a very simple example of like any product. So this branching actually can be utilized in creating like a bigger structural systems also, such as like hangars, and museums, and maybe creating like auditoriums and bigger like spaces where a huge span of actually space is needed. So this branching can be actually useful in several like applications, you know Here you see some more actually examples, like how the reduction of the material is made possible. This chair actually was derived through like an AI actually algorithm model on minimizing actually the material, just going for the material wherever it is needed the most and reducing all others. So this is actually this computer developed model using like the AI, and several other examples you can see from here, this to this to this to this. So they all actually offer a certain kind of a actually innovation, certain kind of a, like a this idea which is existing in the nature, and these are the examples which the designers have actually adopted from the nature. Finally, we have some more examples. You may be aware of most of these actually structures. This is the famous Lotus Temple from New Delhi. This is Ghar King Tower from like London. This is the Bird's Nest Stadium from like Beijing. Okay, so these are all actually, if you see the, they are taken directly from the like a certain actually naturally existing entities from the like nature. You know, so how they are utilizing the form, how they are utilizing the mechanism, you know, how they are utilizing the like a functionality. So all of them have actually certain approach, certain like a leading approach, and the adoption has resulted into like these beautiful actually executions. Further, there are no limits to the creativity and innovation. So this bookshelf I thought of actually putting up over here. It looks really appealing, as well as it solves the problem also of like minimizing the material and optimizing on the efficiency. Finally, with this last slide, I would to bring this biomimetic map on the like a nature's front, on the like engineering front, how with the help of like a this total biomimicry, with the partial biomimicry, you know, so with the abstraction, mechanics, physics, and inspiration, we can actually deal with this. We can actually adopt these nature-based actually designs in our own like engineered designs. So inspiration, which is the, this is the minimal one, where we are just taking the form or maybe some inspiration and we are utilizing it, or this total biomimicry is like a total replication of whatever like we are referring to for its like a form, mechanism, function, you know, or ecosystem, you know. So the complete replication, complete like a mimicking will be called as like a total biomimicry. And in between there are like several other steps also, where like for example, if you are referring only the physics part of it, you know, if you are looking only the mechanics part of it, or if you are going only for the abstraction or partial mimicry, etc. So there is a full range which we saw in the previous slide also, from like just the aesthetical part to the most actually functional part also. So nature actually offers immense potential for our designs to get improved, you know, to actually be sustainable on environmental, social, and economic actually factors. And nature is still one of the best actually sources of inspiration. So one must actually look for such actually inspiration from the nature in order to minimize the impact. With this, I would like to actually come to the end of this lecture. Thank you, everyone.